Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the American Music Fan coming at you with my 9th Beatles album review. I've reviewed Please Please Me through Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and I've reviewed the Beatles stereo box set. So if you want to check any of those reviews out, they're up on my channel. I am on a playlist called Beatles Reviews. And yeah, if you want to check those out, that's perfectly cool. If not, then you are obviously here to watch my Magical Mystery Tour album review. This album was released in December of 1967, was the follow-up to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and it was the soundtrack to their film, Magical Mystery Tour. Now, the film... Okay, so here's the deal. By this time, the Beatles' old manager, Brian Epstein, had died. Okay? Oh, and there's the disc. It's this Capitol Records disc. By this time, the Beatles' manager, Brian Epstein, had died. Okay? Big loss for the Beatles. Big loss. If he wouldn't have died, we might even still have the Beatles today. Because if it wasn't for Brian Epstein dying, Alec Klein would have never been brought into everything, and then the Alex Klein would never brought into anything, and there would have never been the Eastman versus Klein thing. There never would have been a lot of stuff that went wrong. So basically, this album, this is the ninth studio album by the Beatles. But we didn't used to consider it one of their actual albums. See, what we used to do, okay, so Paul McCartney had this idea to make a movie of just the Beatles just driving around with their friends, essentially, in kind of this, trippy, psychedelic movie, as that we know as Magical Mystery Tour. However, that movie flopped horribly. That movie got ripped apart by the critics. It got horrible ratings. See, Paul was just thinking, well, I'll just kind of start out making this here movie, and then, the Beatles magic will just catch on sooner or later. So, the Beatles magic did not catch on, and the movie flopped awful. So, in the States, which is why this has Capital on it, on the disc instead of Parlophone, or Apple, is because they released this album in the States, but not in the UK. In the UK, it was like an EP. It was like not really an album. It was more just I don't know. I don't really know what to call it, but it wasn't actually an album. So nowadays, we do consider it to be a Beatles album, like a complete, Beatles album. But back then, in the States it was, but in the UK it wasn't. So, this is the one that the States didn't mess up. Okay, so, as a follow-up to Sgt. Pepper, I think this album is really good. I think it takes a lot to follow Sgt. Pepper, just because Sgt. Pepper was such a big thing in music. That was really the first time we ever heard a full-on orchestra in a rock album. Which, that was huge. A lot of stuff for Sgt. Pepper was just huge. So, this album came out after that. And as a follow-up, I think it did really good. This kind of further pushed the, expanding of the music industry, I guess. I don't really know what to say about it, but this kind of pushed it forward and gave it a little bit more steam. So, as it says right here, the Beatles, the songs and music from a color television film called Magical Mystery Tour. There's that picture there. Yeah, this album had a lot of stuff in it. This album had... Okay, so I'll just start off with Magical Mystery Tour, which is, again, like an intro song, kind of like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band was. Just kind of gives you an overall of the album. It's kind of a trippy song, but, I love the title track to this album. It's actually probably my favorite, arguably my favorite from the album. It was my favorite Beatles song for a little bit. Not anymore, but it used to be. It's really good. Just kind of an intro to it. Good song. Next we have Paul's song, Fool on the Hill, which is again a song about him. Just like Nowhere Man was on Rubber Soul. Fool on the Hill, basically just talking about this guy who's basically just a loner who sits up on this hill and kind of just zones out up there, and people kind of see him as kind of a freak and kind of crazy, so yeah. Flying and Blue Jay Way. I'm just gonna knock those two out right now because I don't really like either of them, especially Blue Jay Way. Blue Jay Way is scary. That is a scary song. Not a lot can be said for Flying, and honestly, I don't remember it. It's kind of forgettable. Blue Jay Way is very frightening, though. It's seriously probably the second scariest Beatles song there is because it's just a very scary song. Oh man, just the way it's sung, I don't know. It's like, please don't be long, please don't you be very long. But there's this weird effect, and there's all these really crazy instruments in the background, and it's just not fun. Okay, so moving on from that, we have Your Mother Should Know, which is about a song kind of about oldies music, I guess. It's kind of about, not forgetting about the old stuff, which is kind of ironic that the Beatles would be writing about that, but nowadays most of the people who are owning this album, well, I mean, other than people who were alive in the 60s, but most of the people who own this, a lot of people who own this album now, their mothers weren't even alive when the song came out, so maybe their mothers wouldn't know it, but then again, they are the Beatles, and pretty much they're a household name as far as music goes, even if people don't really listen to the Beatles, at least they've heard of them at least. I mean, that's just how big their impact was. So yeah, it's about oldies music. It's not really anything ground. I mean, it's good. It's a good song, but Then we have "I Am the Walrus," which is a really, really good song. It's one of their classics. I think this is considered one of their better songs. "I Am the Walrus." It kind of hops around a little bit. I couldn't really tell you exactly what's it about, but it's a really good song. Really great lyrics by John Lennon. Good instruments. Just a pretty good song. It's long. It's a longer song. It has a lot of different pieces and parts to it. Kind of like how A Day in the Life, except this one doesn't have a Paul part. It's just John, I think. And it's good. A really epic song, I guess. It kind of has a build, and it goes into another part, and then it has another build, and it goes back. So yeah, great song, great song. Let's just say one of the lyrics in that song is "yellow-colored mustard dripping from a dead dog's eye," which is hilarious to me. I don't. It's not funny. Like, dead dogs aren't funny or anything. I'm just saying that lyric would be in a Beatles song is kind of hilarious. Then we have "Hello Goodbye," which "Hello Goodbye." I kind of figured it as kind of an Beatles song. I mean, that's kind of like I put it in the Eleanor Rigby category. I mean, if you watched my Revolver review, I kind of rant about Eleanor Rigby a little bit. Not really a rant, but I just say that I don't really like it all that much. Hello Goodbye is kind of the same way. It's okay, but it's okay. I do like the "Hell I Pay Forever" part at the end. I just like when I first heard it when I was like way younger. I was kind of like, why did the Beatles say hell? And then now that I'm getting a little bit older, I kind of understand. That's fine. I like that. I like that part. It's an okay song, I guess. It's pretty good, I guess. Next, we have "Strawberry Fields Forever," which is awesome and controversial at the same time. Of course, it's about there's a thrift shop in John Lennon's town when he was younger that he used to go to, and it was called Strawberry Fields. But the controversial part in that was that at the very end, John says cranberry sauce, which doesn't make sense why he would say that, but a lot of people took it as "I buried Paul," yeah, the whole Paul is dead thing. This was kind of it was this song and a song off that album, which I will rant the heck out of the song on that album when I get to that album next time, because the song on the White Album is not good. Okay, so then we have "Strawberry Fields Forever." Great song, very psychedelic, very trippy again. This is where the Beatles, this is a John song again. I think John, I don't know. John has a lot of power hits on here, like a lot of really good songs. Paul really only has "Penny Lane" and "The Fool on the Hill" on here, which Paul's my favorite Beatle, but I have to say that John kind of dominates this album, because I don't really like "Hello Goodbye." Penny Lane and Fool on the Hill are the only good Paul ones. Well, Paul does sing in Magical Mystery Tour, but I don't really consider that a Paul song. See, I think John kind of dominates this album. But yeah, so Strawberries Forever, a good song. Then we have Penny Lane, which I really love. Penny Lane, I love it. I just love the chorus where he just goes really high and the there beneath the blue suburban sky. That one, that part, really good song, really good lyrics, really good everything on that song. Really, it's about a bunch of different a bunch of different people. A barber, a fireman, kids laughing at him, a nurse serving poppies from a tray, who feels as though she's in a play, but she is anyway. I just thought I'd finish that. Good rhyming there, Paul. Good job there. Good song, good song. I really love the choruses. I really love a lot on that song. Then we have Baby You're a Rich Man, which I love this song too. Magical Mystery Tour is one of my favorites too. I like Sgt. Pepper's album a little bit better than this, but it's still good. The only reason why is because of Blue Jay Way. I don't like that song. Then you have Baby You're a Rich Man, which is about a guy who's rich, who's been all around the world, as far as the eye could see. You keep all your money in a bring bow bag inside the zoo. What a thing to do. Good song. Again, kind of, again, I can't stress enough how revolutionary these albums are. I mean, they're just really good albums. And then, of course, you have the classic John Lennon song, All You Need Is Love, which has a complete orchestra in it. Is really good. That song is one that can get people through their hardest times. Like, when you're down and, you kind of feel like, you don't have any material thing in the world and, or if you have like an ego problem and you listen to that, it can really humble you a little bit because just the way he says, like, anything you can do can be done. Any song you can sing can be sung. It's really a really versatile song to close out the album. It really has so deep, a really deep meaning to it, and it really kind of, can get you through stuff, can humble you down a little bit, and it's a great song. So, yeah, what else is there to say? Alright, so that's the Magical Mystery Tour album. I like Sgt. Pepper better, but I do really love this album. For a while, this was my favorite Beatles album. Yeah, I give this album a 4 point. Let's go 4.5 out of 5. 4.6. 4.6 out of 5. Just because I like it a lot. So yeah, I'm gonna give all these Beatles albums really high rankings because they're all great. I'm kind of rating them in comparison to the other Beatles albums. I would give Rubber Soul a 5 because I love that one. I'd give Revolver a 5. I'd give, Sgt. Pepper a 4.75. And yeah, so I'm kind of just rating them in relation to the other ones. So those would be my favorites. Please Please Me, I gave, I think, like a 3 or a 3.5. I can't remember. Watch the review. I think so. I can't remember, though. Okay, so yeah, that was the review of their 9th studio album, Magical Mystery Tour. So yeah, come back next time where I review the Beatles. The Beatles. The Beatles. Self-titled. Let's just call it the White Album. Alright, so yep, see you guys next time. Goodbye for now.